Here with North Texas head coach Eric Morris. I see you in your new office there in Denton, Texas. When you're setting up an office, what's kind of your go-to? What are the first couple things you need to do to get your office to where you're ready to work in it?
As you can tell, there's nothing here right now. I have a cup that somebody gifted me so kindly. I have a football that no telling how old that football is right there. So unfortunately, all my stuff's in transit right now from Pullman, Washington, and so hopefully the next time we get on here and do a little podcast that this thing will be filled with cool memorabilia, with cool stuff from the community, maybe some past players' jerseys on the wall, some of our guys' pictures on the wall. So we're still in the process of getting everything worked out. Next time, hopefully, it looks good. There's a bunch of people outside hanging new TVs in the offices right now. So under construction right now. I'll get back to you on a later date of who has the prettiest office. Mine, I'll probably be last on the totem pole right now.
Is that just because of this how busy it is when you hit the ground running these days? Like there's not a month or two to kind of get adjusted and figure out the lay of the land with the transfer portal, the early signing period, the February signing period. Can you just talk to how busy it is for coaches and players right now in the calendar?
I'll be honest with you. I've had time to do it. We've had some long weekends here recently, and so really the reason mine is like this right now is just simply because of logistics. We're me getting my stuff all the way here. So I just sold my home in Pullman. Should be closing on that here at the end of this week, and then purchased a home here. So it's not like, hey, let's take a couple-hour road trip. Let's get all your stuff here. It's like, hey, let's ship it across the country. And so, although I got back from Pullman this weekend, the only thing that made it back was my golf clubs. I haven't enjoyed not being able to play golf at this time of year. It's 84 and beautiful outside. So I thought golf clubs were more important than office decor right now. And so yeah, I think it just depends on where you're at, what the situation is. I'd like to blame it on me being busy. I've had plenty of time to set my office up. For me, being honest with you, just I don't have any things here to put in here. They're all in Pullman.
What's the handicap?
Oh, not good. Love to play. I'm like those guys on all the on the Twitter and TikTok and Instagram where they're like always practicing their swing and then they go out there and they look terrible. So unfortunately, I'm pretty good at most sports. Tomorrow we're gonna have a basketball competition within the whole team. We got a 3-point shootout tomorrow. I take myself in that all day, any day. Football, still like my odds. And just didn't grow up playing golf. Didn't pick it up until college. I can shoot mid 80s by the end of the summer. By no stretch of the imagination, I'm going to sit here and say I'm a great golfer. I like to try to hit it way too hard.
Now, speaking of basketball, you played high school at Shallow Water. Y'all won a state title there. Your dad was your head coach. What was it like winning a state title with your dad? Where does that rank in terms of sports memories for you?
Yeah, at the top for me, just for personal, I think that it was his first state championship, his only state championship, Shallowa's only state championship, and to win it in dramatic fashion, to be able to hit a shot at the end to actually win it and capitalize that for my father, put so many hours into it. I can remember as a young child from kindergarten on, mom would just send you over to the gym to hang out with dad for the rest of the afternoon until we got home. And so yeah, it's something that I'll forever remember as one of those special memories. Not only I think because I was able to do it and have something where I could hit the shot at the end, but also so that my family could enjoy it, and it's something that we enjoyed together. So I think we'll always have that special bond, my dad and I. It's something that's special to have those. I still have my state championship ring in with all my bowl rings that I earned as a player, just because it's been that special to me.
How early on did you know you were going to follow in his footsteps as a coach? Was that pretty obvious to you as a little kid? And do you have any stories of kind of helping him with plays and helping him at practice and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've always been pretty aggressive and pretty just uber competitive, I would say. From a young age, I remember, being in little dribblers, and my dad used to give me money every time I'd pass the ball when we were in shallow water. We'd dominate, the other team so bad. And, And so he wasn't rewarding me for scoring points. He was rewarding me for passing the ball and getting my teammates involved. Something where I was just almost a gym rat, whatever sport it was. And, we went in Shallwater. I think going from football to basketball to baseball was something that, you just played them all, and you did it to compete with your teammates and to compete with your classmates, and I think you had that sense of pride for the community around Shallwater and winning as a community. Everybody kind of followed you, so I think that was something cool. Now getting into the X's and O's part of, I always had a love for sports and a love for competition. And I think that really once I got to college is really when I fell in love with the schematics part of it and being able to, form relationships with different people from different backgrounds, different demographics, all walks of life. I think that was something that I really took interest to, formed a lot of great friends. They're coming from all over the country. And so I think, we had our first year at Texas Tech at Shallwater, a guy from Illinois of all places was someone that kind of stayed with me when we went on winter break and things. We just drive 15 miles down the street and he'd stay at the house with me. My mom and dad would cook for a bunch of the receivers on the team. And so you got that kind of sense of pride with your other teammates. And so I think the relationship part of it started then. And then just having great coaches in college. I mean, look, my three position coaches were, Sonny Dykes, Lincoln Riley, and Dana Holgerson. And so I think those are guys that are just mentors of mine that really poured into my life. And I knew I wasn't the most gifted athlete out there. They're going to try to recruit me every year. Here I am, this little 5'8" guy from a small town that didn't have any just redeeming quality where I was like, holy smokes, this guy's just a natural freak athlete out there. It's like, I had to work for everything. And so I think I had to give myself a leg up. And so I took pride in learning the offense and knowing when to be, where to be, formed a great relationship with Graham Harrell. Anytime you're a receiver, you want the ball, form a good relationship with the quarterback. So hopefully he throws you the rock. I'm in the huddle every play, like, hey, Graham, just do this, like throw it here when they do this. And so yeah, I think all that. And then, Mike Leach was such a huge influence in me throughout my college career. I think college is really when I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be a football coach at this level. And but I think, the competitive part of it, my dad being a coach was something that kind of got it. The idea started early, but it didn't really hit me till college where I said, hey, this is what I want to make a career out of.
Now, speaking of Mike Leach and those coaches you played for, kind of what's your first Mike Leach memory, whether it be a phone call, a visit, kind of what was your first interaction with him like?
Yeah, they always told me no for a long time. I mean, I went to all the camps, I did all these things, almost like I was begging them for a scholarship. And so, basically, at one point, I think I told them that, they were recruiting a couple other guys for that last scholarship. And I told them to leave that scholarship in a room, lock the door, and I'd fist fight all the guys. Whoever came out with it gets the scholarship. And so I think Mike really, he liked that approach to it. He knew that I was a tough guy. And Mike would probably tell you that, all the guys that kind of in that slot category, me, Amendola, Wes Welker, everybody always asks him, hey, how'd you find these guys? How'd you recruit them? And it's like, I didn't recruit one of those guys. They recruited me. And they wanted to come here. They showed us somehow, some way, and had a kind of special circumstances in getting there. So, no, it's good. And finally, I finally started getting recruited late. Phil Bennett started recruiting me at SMU, was bringing me down on an official visit. And so I think that's where it kind of flipped the switch. And Texas Tech got me on an official visit. They offered me when I was in a meeting with Coach Leach. He does his famous little card trick, that when he offers people. And so, he says, hey, if at the end of the card trick, he does this whole rendition and only of fashion Mike Leach can. And then like, they're all cards are laid out. And he's like, if this whole pile's black and this whole pile's red, then you have a scholarship. And I'm sitting there like, oh, me and my mom and dad, like, I hope he didn't mess up on this card trick, right? and try to joke. Just flips them over. They were, I committed as fast as possible. So he couldn't, rethink that thing. And as a thing that he took a chance on me, and I was forever grateful and worked extremely hard to make him proud.
You mentioned all those coaches that you had at the wide receiver position. They're all head coaches now, while successful head coaches. I think 5 of the 13 head coaches in the state of Texas either played or coached for Mike Leach during that time at Texas Tech. We cover high school football here for a living, and you see the air raid all across the state at every single level. What made that offense so contagious, and why is it, kind of the thing you see when you turn on the TV, not only on Saturday, but on Friday and on Sunday as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sexy brand of football. I mean, I think people like seeing the ball thrown all over the yard. And then I think there's such a simplistic mindset to the way Leach did it, and I think that some of the smart coaches and players that coach for him and played for him, I think it almost drove them crazy a little bit that they were doing the same thing over and over, so repetitive. So I think that's why a bunch of them branched off. They wanted to coach, but they wanted to put their own spin on it. Is because Mike was so hard headed and set in his ways that they're like, hey, I could do this a little bit better. Let me show you how. And so there's a lot of beauty in the simplicity of it. But at the same time, I think a bunch of those guys were so frustrated when they left that place because Mike was so simple. Us as players, we were always. I remember scoring a touchdown one time against I think it was Oklahoma State. We had double slant on, and they were in a certain defense. And Graham said, "Hey, I'm gonna signal double slant again next time. Run a slant and go." Which we don't have that in the playbook, and so we did it. We scored a touchdown against Oklahoma State, and of course, we jog off to the sideline. Everyone's high fiving, and Mike brings us over. He's like, "What was that?" And, and so one of those cool moments where when you scored a touchdown, he obviously wasn't going to take you out. He probably ripped us pretty good after that. But I think we were so just eager to learn more, do more, and we had so much success at the same time. But I think everybody's kind of adapted to it. The old school air raid, and they found out ways to stop it. I think back in the day when Mike first started, nobody was throwing the ball like that, so nobody really had an answer for it. And I think it just spread like wildfire, especially over the Big 12. And then people slowly, I think you're in the second round of it now, where everybody kind of went against it, and now they're going back to heavy tight ends and running the football a little bit more with the Baylors and Oklahoma States and adding a new dynamic to it. But yeah, I think the simplistic approach to it has always been something that's caught a lot of people's eyes. And but then again, I think that the really good ones nowadays have added their own little flair to it and new things that are helping take it to the next level.
You became a head coach for the first time in 2018 at Incarnate Word. What did you learn from that experience as a head coach that you're able to kind of, I don't know, maybe fast forward the process a little bit more at North Texas since you've done it before?
I think the better question is what I didn't learn from being a head coach. I don't think you're ever ready to be a head coach until you're thrown into the fire. Obviously, that was a place I think that didn't have any history of football. Had no momentum whatsoever. If you probably ranked the Division I jobs in Texas from first to last, when I took it, it'd probably be last at that time.
Yeah.
So I've always prided myself in doing things that people say can't be done, and so that was a fun place to kind of go cut your teeth. I made plenty of mistakes at Incarnate Word, trust me, and so I think it helped me here. The timing of my hire, we're so close, a day or two from signing day. And I think, when I went back on the first time as a head coach, I made a lot of mistakes because I went too fast on things. And whether that was recruiting, whether that was hiring people, whether that was, whatever I was doing. And so that allowed me to say, hey, that making the right hires is more important to take my time than to rush in this and get somebody that's not going to believe in the same things I believe in or fit into our culture. And then recruiting, same thing. I mean, there's plenty of guys throughout the state of Texas, especially, that we can go recruit late here that are overlooked because of the transfer portal right now. So I think to take your time, not have knee jerk reactions. To really be able to listen to your surrounding people. I think, I take great pride in the people that I hired, and I'm not a micromanager, so let these guys do their jobs and to ask them for their input. I think, I have a bunch of guys that have head coaching experience on my staff right now, and I'm not too proud to go ask them and say, hey, I don't know the answer on this. and what have you seen? What have your past situations look like? And so yeah, a ton of mistakes in the current word, but at the end of the day, I was able to learn how to do a bunch of things on the fly. I wasn't under the magnifying glass all the time, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a win-win situation for me. We start winning some games, and all of a sudden, win a conference championship our first year, and you start turning a lot of heads like, what are those guys doing over there? And so yeah, it definitely wasn't me. I hired a lot of great people that were able to help me get there. We recruited a lot of great kids that played their tails off for us and helped us change that culture. So yeah, ton of things I learned and I was able to reflect on as taking this job.
How in the world did Cam Ward kind of just go under the radar so much in that recruiting process? Because I mean, he's a superstar, right? He played really well for y'all, then transferred to Washington State. In today's world with social media and huddle and everything like that, how often do players like that still kind of fall through the cracks?
Yeah, more than what you think. And I think that nowadays, a bunch of these coaches want to go on these rankings from outside sources now, and as opposed to putting in the homework and really going and evaluating and figuring out, not only the skill sets that kids have, but what they can become. I think there's this thing where kids are overdeveloped in the state of Texas, and so you have a kid that's from way down in West Columbia that plays every sport, that doesn't go to a quarterback trainer, that was a little bit, not, he was in a wing T offense, so really wasn't able to showcase his skill set. So I just think, and then there's the lost art of kids developing late nowadays. There's a bunch of great seniors that kind of develop late, and you have to continue to evaluate senior tape. And so yeah, I mean, no secret. I mean, it's the same thing on a different scope, though, is why Patrick Mahomes went to Texas Tech, and nobody else in the state of Texas wanted Patrick Mahomes, who's the greatest football player in the whole entire world right now, I guess. And so yeah, I mean, I think there's so many levels to it. Obviously there's a bunch of quarterbacks that are really good in the state of Texas. There's going to be one or two that get overlooked every single year, and you're like, how the heck did he get out of here? And so yeah, we're going to have to continue to do a good job here, especially even at this level in the Group of Five, and continue to evaluate senior film, get these guys to come here to camps, and there'll be guys here and there that slip through the cracks.
Now, your name popped up with a decent amount of jobs this cycle. What made North Texas the right fit for you, and what gives you, I guess, hope or belief that y'all can be one of the top G5 programs in the nation with the expanded playoff and kind of the opportunities in front of you?
Yeah, I'd say just our administration. I mean, we have an athletic director here that I think I completely jive with. I mean, a guy that's from West Texas, a small town in West Texas. We're kind of cut from the same cloth as being out there. He was a guy that was from Lockney, Texas, and then went on to have a great basketball career at ACU, staying there kind of in the West Texas thumbprint. I think we'd both cut our teeth in the Southland Conference. We've been used to trying to elevate a program with not a ton of resources and find ways to be creative to make those things happen. And I think just West Texas people are genuine people that it's easy for me to go down and not have a meeting set up, sit down and hey, let's talk about the problems that are going on. How are we going to find solutions to this? And that was one thing, talking to Jared Mosley was he understood that, the trajectory of this place right now, I think, is really good. I mean, they've worked really hard to put them in a situation where they're moving into the American Conference next year, where they've, built some great facilities around here. But at the same time, he knew we still had work to do to get to the top. And I've always been a guy that's been a problem solver. I think that's what I love to do. That's kind of my mission and goals in life is not to look at our problems, and be scared away, but hey, let's find solutions to the different problems, both for our student athletes and for our program. And so yeah, I think first and foremost, just the relationship piece that I have and the compatibility that I have with my boss.
Spring practice is sneaking up on us, as crazy as that sounds. Kind of what are the goals for the first spring practice as a head coach? How much can you get in? How much of it is about scheme? How much of it is about just figuring out your players?
Yeah, I think to just be organized and make it look like an actual football plays are being run on both sides out there. I think this day and age with the new rules of college football and allowing us to actually spend some time in the meeting room with them now, we get this 8 hour a week little period that we can have with the guys. And now, so we're plucking 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there nowadays to actually go over what we're looking for in film, to actually go over terminology. And so I think those things are so helpful, is actually being able to go out there and know what the guys are doing on day one, opposed to, we're looking at, 10 or 15 years ago where you're walking out and it's literally the first time that you've heard some of these play calls, that you've been in a huddle, that you've seen it on tape. So I think the rules now allow you to kind of jump ahead on some of that stuff. And then too, I think we have a bunch of great kids around here. I think, the culture in our locker room's been good as far as, I come up here in the afternoons and you walk down the hallways and we have, voluntarily guys sitting in with coaches, wanting to learn more. They're eager to kind of figure things out right now. And so yeah, I mean, I think right now you really lean on your strength and conditioning coach, who's a guy I'm really familiar with, and Coach Keggins, who's worked, with Coach Riley for the last 8 or 9 years, and then before that, we were teammates together at Texas Tech. So really understands kind of what we're looking for as far as what we need once we get out there on the practice field, and how it's going to be structured and what kind of shape they need to be in. And so really leaning into him right now as far as getting them bigger, faster, stronger, and in shape to handle what we're going to put on them physically. And then mentally, that's our job as coaches, is to kind of, try to bring those guys along and just get a day better. I think that the progress through spring is something that you're going to look at from day one all the way to 15. How much progress were we able to make during the course of those 15 practices.
And then lastly, the American conference schedule came out today. As a coach, how much do you kind of look at that and start thinking about things, or is that just so far down the road that it doesn't even really matter to you right now?
Yeah, I mean, my wife's interested in it more than I am. She's trying to plan all the planning. When's the wives trip? I've had more questions from my wife this morning than anybody else on kind of who we're playing, where we're playing, all those things. Just a great conference. You're going to have to play them all at some point, and so, when you look at it and you're kind of, got a bunch of games that are important to this school kind of in the latter half of it, as far as, playing the SMUs and the UTSAs and some of those guys that are closer to home. That'll be some of those in-state games that I know people take a great pride in around here. And so, but other than that, I think that that I'm happy with the way it landed for us. Obviously, that to be able to play the competition level that we're about to move up a conference and go against the UABs and the Tulsas and the SMUs, Memphis's, UTSA's, like there's not a week off in the schedule. And so I was more, focused on, hey, who's going to be first? Who's our first conference game? And they're like, oh, here you go. You go play the triple option up north the first game. I'm like, that's perfect. And so, no, I think that obviously, people can get into this scheduling thing on, we got gypped, or this team has a better, run than we do. Their buys in a better place than I do. But at the end of the day, I've always been a coach that, hey, we're going to have to play them all anyways. Like we're going to have to beat them all if we want to get to where we want to go and win a championship. So that stuff's out of our control. I don't spend a lot of time on worrying about things I can't control. I'd rather start figuring out how we can score a couple points against all these great opponents and maybe hold them to not very many touchdowns. And so, but our work will be cut out with us for us this year. Just a lot of quality opponents.
All right, Coach. We really appreciate the time, and when you do get those boxes in there, make sure you make Taylor pack them up for you to get them out.
I'm gonna send you a picture, that way you can look at it and know that, hey, Coach Morris actually has a real office. I need some of those. Look at you have the little soccer scarves in the background, all kinds of stuff.
Old credentials and stuff like that. So you got to make your workspace happy.
I'll be there at some point. So thanks, Mike. I appreciate you.
All right, sir. Talk to you next time.